Hey, what's going on everyone? This is CzarDB, and today I've got another Splatoon 2 video. In this one, I just wanted to do a little bit of review and discussion on the recent global Testfire and wanted to get a little more in-depth on some thoughts and predictions for how things may be regarding some of the newly revealed maps, and more specifically, how this is going to affect players that utilize shooter weapons, as I'm a shooter main myself. So first, let's get started with some Testfire discussion. Personally, I enjoyed playing it a lot. It was a neat experience, and after getting used to the two available maps, I started to feel a bit more comfortable with how everything played out. The splatter shot was actually really nice to use again. After a couple games, I got the hang of it and started to learn a couple spots where it was best to use it. In the original Splatoon, I normally utilized the octa shot or the 10-attack splatter shot, whichever one you want to call it, they're the same, but in the Testfire, the sub option for the splatter shot was limited to burst bombs only, and honestly, it was a bit interesting to see how burst bombs would play out. I felt like they were a lot more effective than in previous experiences, but I think that's due to a combination of lesser skilled players that were roaming the Testfire and how the new maps are designed. I'll touch back on the map part later, as I think this is a really important thing to cover, but going back to the weapon and feel of the game itself, it was very interesting. Another thing was specials. Specials were very interesting as well. Why? Well, because for one, if you compare them to the specials we had in Splatoon 1, they're all quite different. But also for the fact that I feel that the specials are very fun to use. Like, in other words, it doesn't feel stressful to use a special like it might do in Splatoon 1, like hyper-focusing when utilizing something such as the Inksuka, or trying to efficiently clear an area as efficiently as possible with bomb rushes, etc, etc. In Splatoon 2, they just, I don't know, they just feel more fun. That's kind of the word I'm looking for. Enjoyable, if you will. I think the better way to describe it is like this. It doesn't feel as stressful to utilize a special as it may be for some players in Splatoon 1. Of course, this depends on the type of playstyle, but I play very hyper-aggressive, and more often than not, I feel immense pressure when using specials to initiate things such as pushes or clearing zones as quickly as possible. With that said, I feel it's relatively safe to say this. Splatoon 2 doesn't feel like it's a very special-oriented game. In Splatoon 1, specials were essentially the saving grace for teams that coordinated them properly, and 7 out of 10 times it would essentially decide the result of a game. In Splatoon 2, I feel like the specials that we got to try out so far are actually slightly weaker. I feel like they're meant to almost strictly benefit the user only in most situations, and thus makes it so that specials can be used a little bit more greedily. For example, 10 of Missiles is a very interesting special, where enemies can be located and locked on from across the map. The thing is that it's only the player that gets the intel on the opposition's location, and really only serves to seek out opponents rather than provide significant benefit to the team. Except maybe in a case where your teammates need you to get enemies out of cover and move somewhere else, but other than that, it feels like a very selfish special, to put it in other words. Now moving on the issue that I had with playing the Testfire. In my Testfire videos that I uploaded before, you may have noted that on multiple occasions I made complaints about how the feel of the sensitivity and motion was like. It was smooth. Too smooth, like in a sort of bad way actually. The thing about me and quite a few other shooters, both aggressive and somewhat passive, but mainly for the aggressive ones, is that we get to utilize a very snappy gyro scheme in Splatoon 1. What I mean by this is that as shooter players, we have to constantly be aware of our surroundings and be very quick to look around and adapt to a particular situation, such as very quickly turning the camera and aiming extremely fast at an opposing player that may be challenging you in a CQC fight. If you've ever seen me stream or upload past videos of some Splatoon 1 gameplay, you'll probably know that I have a very snappy gyro scheme. So much so that I've apparently given some viewers motion sickness actually. I don't know if I'm proud of that or not, but that's just how I play and fulfill my role as an aggressive shooter. However, in Splatoon 2, I did not feel like the gyro scheme was very snappy, at all. It felt like the motions were forced to be super smooth, which made it harder to actually snap onto a player if they were close by. If you're an advanced video editor that's watching this, I'm going to try and explain this using a really weird analogy. If you're not, I'd suggest just skimming to the next topic that I explain later on. Okay, so here's an interesting way to describe it. It's like a forced easy ease. For people that have knowledge with keyframe interpolation regarding motions in programs such as Premiere and After Effects, I think of it like this. Each time your character turns, think of it like a camera that is panning or tilting. And each time it pans or tilts, that's a keyframe. Now imagine all the keyframes are interpolated as easy eases with progressive starts and stops rather than quick and immediate linear halts. That's what it feels like, and it's actually really annoying. It could be that it's simply not being used to the transition from a wide, bulky gamepad to a much smaller and tighter controller, but I still feel like it's simply a major issue with how the gyro tilt behaves in Splatoon 2. If Nintendo is listening, please find a way to fix this. It's a serious issue that's going to throw a lot of shooter mains off their game when transitioning from Splatoon to Splatoon 2. Hey guys, so a quick little editor note here. Upon further investigation of the issue, I actually discovered that someone had done a gyro test where both Splatoon and the Splatoon 2 global Testfire were running at the same time, and both the Wii U gamepad and Switch Pro controller were placed on a single rigid body of wood that is rotatable 360 degrees. Here was the comparison. So, negative 0.5 sensitivity on the Wii U gamepad is apparently equal to +5 on the Switch Pro controller. This is actually a very amazing discovery, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Squirty33 for taking the time to do this. It was pretty evident that something wasn't right with the gyro in comparison to the original game, and this helps shed light on the issue more clearly. This is something that I want to try and test out further when we do get another chance to play Splatoon 2 again, whether it be in a possible future Testfire or when the full game releases. I'll link the source in the description if anybody is interested in taking a look at the issue directly. Okay, so moving on, let's get started with some map discussion. Two of the maps that we got to try out in the Testfire were Muscle Forge Fitness and The Reef. Both were very interesting maps to play on, with each one offering interesting spots for cover and space. Furthermore, we have two additional maps revealed that were discussed by Nintendo after the Testfire, those being Humpback Pump Track and Starfish Mainstage. On Humpback Pump Track, it's an indoor BMX track featuring lots of curvy hills, blind spots, and an extreme amount of open space. It's almost like Black Belly Skate Park version 2.0. And then there's Starfish Mainstage, which is an outdoor music venue that also seems quite spacious from the preview photos Nintendo has released so far. I think both of these maps are going to be quite interesting, but something I want to go over quickly is a key characteristic in the map design that we can observe so far. That would be open space. From what I can see, it looks like the Splatoon devs are trying to push for the maps to be more spacious, and force players to try and turf up the area a lot more to set up future opportunities for pushes and overall control. If this is truly the case for the majority or even all of the maps, I believe this is going to shift the teamwork needed for this game in a direction where everyone should be contributing to ink coverage more frequently, instead of having certain players focus 90% of their strategy on tactics such as flanking. Unfortunately, I do fall in this category, and I'll either find a way around it or I'll have to learn the hard way. Now, as a shooter, this begs the question. Given the currently revealed information on things so far for Splatoon 2, how do we think this is going to affect shooter players? I could go on a huge rant about this, but for now, I'm just going to condense some of my answers to this question in 3 major points. If you are a shooter player as well, know that we're going off of small hints and information that the Splatoon devs have given, but despite this, I want you guys to listen and analyze these points very carefully. I think they're super important to understand in the long run. For starters, this might shift the shooter meta to utilize the range archetype more. Range, in my opinion, is one of the most necessary aspects of Splatoon because of how the game is. It's not like other games where bullets travel from one end of the map to the other and essentially have the distinct purpose of killing enemies. In Splatoon, weapons have complete limited range and force players to take note that turf coverage is another big fundamental that always needs to be considered. Range is a thing that not only allows players to pick people off from far distances, but also makes enforcing ground control a whole lot easier. With the introduction of very big and open maps, range is going to remain a major aspect that players will need to consider when fulfilling the job of ink coverage a lot more efficiently, whilst trying to deal with the secondary job of zoning people off important areas. Shooters need to keep this in mind when attempting to do multiple things at the same time, as that is what they're meant for. Shooters are a nice general weapon class to have in a composition, as they're meant to deal with many different situations at once. The next point I want to bring up is that shooters will have to restructure common strategies that can deal with weapons suited for extreme turf coverage, such as the Dynamo and Splatlings. This kind of spins off the first point. Shooters won't be the only thing that will focus on turf coverage, as there are obviously better suited weapons for this role. In some cases, flanking will need to be a necessary option to take on weapons that are abusing massive range, but if players are shifting to utilize shooters with more range, it may be wise to shift out focuses from playing more CQC based to trying to zone off enemy ranged players from key positions that may help the enemy initiate overall control of the map. Finally, these changes may encourage shooters to lead in coordinating multi-special pushes due to mass territory that players must fight for. Returning to the previous point about specials, although they seem weaker and might encourage players to use them more greedily, it may be a much bigger priority to coordinate specials all at the same time in order to quickly push through massive open areas. To help with this, we can now see when players have their specials at the ready using the HUD at the top of the screen, making it easier for players, whether they're communicating with their teammates or not, to know when it's most appropriate to begin initiating a special push. I'm sorry if that was a mouthful, but I do encourage viewers to go back and review them again if necessary. Also, it's going to be really funny if everything that I said is not the case if the meta shifts in a different direction when the full game releases, but regardless, I think there are fundamentals in there that will still apply no matter what happens, but feel free to roast me later on anyway if you're so inclined. That's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and a comment below, that'd be awesome, and if you're feeling a bit generous, please do drop a sub, that'd be swell. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.